Welcome to J.J.Cheng Legacy Show. This is J.J.Cheng. This is a weekly podcast bringing you art, cosmos, technology, and spirituality. This is perhaps one of the few times that two artists from two different disciplines, one from the painting, the other is from poetry and calligraphy. Their joint effort produced works of 18 canvas as tall as human size. They are amazing testimony to human fascination about the above, about the cosmos. Why do we look up? What are we looking at? We're looking inward as we're looking outwards. Let's discover their working process and what it means to be looking up. You share this visual language and you share this the mind of this universe. I would just love to understand your process of working. Maybe use one example of the phoenix. You know, phoenix is my icon. I've been writing a novel highlighting phoenix as the messenger of peace. Now, I'm utterly surprised to see your phoenix here. So how does this particular painting started working?
The entire project is a result of 18 months of stargazing sessions that we had together from, I believe it was the summer of 2014 until early 2016. And the Phoenix is actually interpretation of the Great Orion Nebula. Is visible. It's most prominent in the winter night sky. It's one of a very small handful of nebulae that are visible with the naked eye. But when you look at it through a telescope, it is one of the most vibrant and dynamic things you can ever see. Your brain just cannot process what you're looking at.
Could you bring us into the astronomer's lenses? I mean, how do you see it? What's the distance? How is your telescope work? And we as non-astronomer need to get a little technical instruction from you.
The entire project was done using my 12-inch Dobsonian reflector. Basically, it's a 12-inch diameter parabolic mirror that captures light and it compresses and converges onto a single point into an eyepiece. And with that large aperture, it's designed so I can see and observe objects in space beyond our solar system, very faint and fuzzy, very distant and ancient and enormous deep sky objects. But with the telescope, we have the ability to see much more detail from much, much farther away.
But you said it's beyond the solar system.
Yes, well beyond the solar system, well beyond the
Could you educate us? Could you educate us about, are we in a solar system? We just want to orient ourselves. Earth, where are we?
And where we are in the Milky Way is on the outer arm. So just imagine the core of the Milky Way galaxy out to its farthest most point is about 50,000 light years out. We are on the outer fringes. If we were, let's say, if the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the core, was a city, we would be a suburban cul-de-sac on the outer banks. Not quite rural, but not quite in the middle of everything. The entire Milky Way galaxy is roughly 100,000 light years in diameter.
And we're not in the center.
No, but we do have abilities to view the core of the galaxy of the Milky Way mainly during the peak summertime, when we circumvent our orbit and we're looking toward the center of the galaxy. In the winter, we really can't see it all that well, but
then what's in the center in the galaxy?
Consensus is that it's a massive super black hole that is concentrating a large number of stars. So it looks like just a massive ball of stars, and we are on the outside looking in at that. And we're just on the outer arms of that spiral. Just imagine us being a whirlpool, and the center of that is a bunch of stars circling a super black hole, and a hole that we can't see because it's surrounded by a bunch of stars, but it's so dense and so powerful, and its gravitational pull is so strong that light can't escape it. And we are rotating around this center. If you look at the constellation Sagittarius, you'll see the core of the Milky Way galaxy quite prominently on a very clear moonless night. You need minimal light pollution. Most people don't get to see the Milky Way in a city situation, but if you go to the ocean where there is no light pollution along the horizon and there's no light pollution along the coastline.
It sounds like the black hole is the center of this cosmos. Am I right or wrong?
It's not the center of the cosmos as much, but it's the center of the galaxy that we live in.
I see. There are many galaxies beyond us.
Yes, many more than we ever imagined, it turned out. Not only were we not the only galaxy, but there were many, many others. Many of them are much larger than ours from very, very far away. So the universe became, in a span of 100 years, became much, much larger from what we understood.
And since when you started this exploration of the galaxy? And how did this passion or interest start? When you were a little boy, were you born in Taiwan?
I was born in Taiwan. My mother's a native of the island. She's one of the indigenous people, and my father was an American officer who was stationed in Taiwan during the campaign during the Vietnam War. They fell in love, got married, had me, and then some odd years ago, we moved to the United States, where I've been ever since. My interest was probably because I was born from the space race era, the dawn of the space age. I was born 2 weeks after Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. I was also born the year that Mariner 6 was sent. Mariner 6 is a Martian probe. It was the first probe that was sent to the planet Mars to get some more information about it. My first true stargazing experience happened when my mother and father took me to a grown-up party. Now, what I remember correctly, it was an apartment in Manhattan, of all places. And so the host, whose name was Charles McLean, was a friend of my father's, said, "You want to see something interesting?" And he broke out what I now know as a 60-millimeter refractor telescope and started pointing it to the moon and the planet Jupiter. It was the first time I saw it with my own two eyes. I've seen pictures of it, but to actually see the craters and the mountains and the canyons of the surface of the moon with my own two eyes.
Allow me to share the moon story, the Chinese moon story. It is said, according to Chinese mythology, we have this rabbit who is a pharmacist, who is pounding the herbs under a tree. Did you see that?
You can definitely see that. I know the myth of the rabbit.
Okay.
That pattern comes from the seas. You can actually see that more during the full moon.
Oh, you actually can see a shape of a rabbit of some kind? Did you say that?
Yeah, if you put it together, you can see a lot of things up there when you're prepared. But I'm aware of the rabbit myth and the seas that make up the rabbit myth as well.
And it's amazing. And this is such a sickening world. And the rabbit upstairs is making medicines for mankind. You see, that is why I think your work is just fundamentally crucial to find cures for humanity. We're going to talk about that when we come back. So, so after 8 years, that first experience when you were 8, and you were somehow, how did you evolve into a amateur astronomer 50 years later, and then artist?
I was always passionate about art. I probably drew before I learned how to write or read, for that matter. It was something that was natural to me.
That's probably all human beings started with drawing. Look at all these cave painting, all these cradles. Yeah.
It was a way for me to immediately express how I saw the world and how I like to see the world. It also gave me an ability to create as well. Even though I've had a strong classical background, I lean toward the fantasy and the world makers. My favorite artists have always been Hieronymus Bosch, Peter Bruegel, Giorgione from Italy, and to some extent even Vincent van Gogh. He was absolutely interested in the night sky. the starry night is composed and the way he draws this turbulent night sky with all of these swirly patterns and luminous stars
Yeah, I remember
and the
that.
moon.
Would you explain to me about your artistic statement? It says autobiographical, anachronistic, mythological, cosmic fantasy scapes. That summarized the core of you and explain that. And because I write about mythology, or I'm remaking a mythology, combining the Chinese mythology of classic of mountains and seas with a modern tale. And how does mythology or cosmology or numerology and all these physics and astronomy, how does this, I mean, merging?
That's the night sky in a nutshell right there. I mean, when you think about mythology, it's more than just storytelling. It was an attempt by man to explain the complexity of the universe. At its core, mythology is psychological archaeology. We learn a lot about how people saw the world in the past and how they explained the mechanisms of the cosmos as best they could. And it's just it's amazing how beautiful and how creative we are in our abilities to take, well, the complexity of the universe, which is everything. We look at Greek mythology as the primary source, but there were others. There was Aztec astronomy, Egyptian astronomy, Chinese astronomy, of course. So we were all trying to look at all those points up in the sky and try to make sense of them. And in essence, we did. We turned the night sky into a tool. It's a calendar, it's a storybook, it's a map, it's a fortune teller to some cultures.
As you know, the Chinese emperor is considered to be the son of heaven. So he has a assortment of astronomers deciphering for him, taking the mandate directly from the sky, from the heaven. Actually, according to the Chinese theory, the Neo-Confucianism at least, and it is the heaven that demand the order, moral order on earth. Have you ever thought about that or heard about this?
Yes, and it makes sense. The word cosmos is ancient Greek. It's derived. The word means order.
Cosmos.
The opposite of the word cosmos is chaos or chaos, disorder. So, as far as ancient times, looking up in the night sky, it was the overall. They were looking at the cosmic order of things and how. And it's an interesting thing that you bring up too, because when I think of studying the stars, and this is something that I bring up with a lot of my friends and colleagues at the observatory I like to go to, is that it's incredible to me that the very same building blocks of matter that we have here in this end of the solar system and our end of the galaxy, and consequently the universe, hydrogen, helium, and the way they behave in nature, they behave exactly the same way that we have here in this end of the solar system and our end of the galaxy, and consequently the universe. But every single atom in our body that makes us the material creature that we are, born from a star, they were all created from fusions of suns and stars. We are basically star matter. That 13 billion years old. I'm looking at my hand right now, and everything that makes up my hand, even though my existence as Randall DiGiuseppe is 56 years old in a few months, the components, ever since I was an infant, and everything I'm looking at, existed very close to the beginning of time or billions of years afterwards. And then when I die, the material, while my soul, I believe, goes on, that's my opinion, that's my belief.
You believe you come from star?
It's not a matter that we believe, it's a matter of fact.
I love that fact. That's just amazing. That proved one of the reporting who wrote about my grandfather's death. It says my grandfather come from this heaven, and he was one of the star of literature, the star of intellectual star. So what you're saying just proved it's actually resonating.
When a star is born, it creates through fusion hydrogen atoms, helium atoms, and then later on, let's say it's very safe to say that 90+% of the material that make up who you are is from a star that was born over 13 billion years ago. I'm only 56 years old, but what's amazing to me is that when I was born, there was nothing in terms of material that made me who I was. And then the material that makes my body is actually products of stardust, which means that when I was born, it was something else. So it's floating around the cosmos, and it might have been another person for all I know in another place. I'm talking about the material aspect of it. My soul, who makes me Randall as opposed to just my body, it didn't exist until I was born, and when I'm gone and long gone, the particles that make up my body when I decompose and go back to the earth and go back into the atmosphere will be part of something else that's going to be living in the cosmos.
It sounds like you believe in reincarnation?
No, it's not reincarnation.
What happened with your soul after we pass?
That's a good question. Speaking to me,
yeah,
I've been and I am a practicing Christian. I believe that despite the immense size of the observable cosmos, that there is more than meets the eye, that there's even a world beyond what we can see, and there's no telescope in the world and no microscope in the world that can see it.
The Buddhism theory is we are always in the cycle of reincarnation.
From the material aspect of that makes perfect sense. Because whenever we die, whatever that material is that makes us up, the atoms that make us up, will no longer exist in our own present manifestation, but it's going to be something or someone or someplace else.
So as a human form, we have you have fetus. The fetus is made of sperm and eggs, right? And then there's a third entity that makes a human according to the Tibetan Buddhism. That is the Bardo. That is the soul.
Yeah.
So
the collective view, I think for the most part, it's the collective view of most humans that live on Earth. You have some that that don't or are reluctant to believe that.
Not everybody agree with everyone. Yeah.
I've known atheists in my life, and there have been some in my family, and to be honest, it's just for me, it doesn't work for me. From what I see, I know a lot of people, they look into the night sky and say, well, that just makes me feel so insignificant. But for me, when I look into the cosmos, I think I'm just so blessed to be part of something so stunning, so beautiful, so dynamic.
Because you are spiritual. That means you are so well connected with the spirit of the universe. That is why you can make your beautiful art. Can we come and talk about how you actually collaborate with Huang Xiang?
I invited him to come with me and his wife, Lane, and we went to Robert Moses, Field 2. He never saw them in a telescope, or very curious about the universe and the night sky, and I wanted to accommodate him and show him there's so much more than you can imagine. So I brought him and his wife to a dark parking lot that faced over the Atlantic Ocean, and we were looking at summer deep sky objects and some planets, and he was in such amazement that then him. He's full of energy, and he's nonstop. But for the first time, he was speechless. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. And when we got home, I got a call from his wife the day later rather, and she said that Huang Xiang needs to work with you. He can't sleep. He was just so amazed by what he experienced. And she also brought to my attention that he said that it occurred to him that for 20 years when he was in prison, he was denied the night sky.
This is exactly, you would not believe this. I really wrote about this in my novel. My grandfather was detained and he couldn't see the sky. And then I designed a blood moon for him. In his mental horizon, he was looking at this blood moon. So you see, that's why I'm resonating with you and Huang Xiang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's that connection. He was, for me, it broke my heart to think that somebody would be denied what I consider a basic human privilege. And
Have you ever been to China?
I have never been to mainland China, but I've never been to the mainland.
Do you want to go?
I'd like to, yeah, absolutely.
May we come back to the creation of the painting between you and Huang Xiang after Yulan called you, say he can't sleep and he has to work with you? Then did he write a poem?
He didn't write any poems, but he felt that he had so much to say.
I understand.
About what we saw.
So how did this work come into being? So I was amazed at looking at the work, but I don't know who come. I mean, you couldn't possibly work together on one canvas. Together, one has to paint or write first, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me you are the first. Tell me, what's the process?
Yeah, this astronomy collaboration of American artists with a Chinese poet, and he wanted. So far as we knew, we didn't know anybody else that did it. It was a groundbreaking endeavor.
How do I interpret this one? And I see a beautiful sparkling sky, and then there is huge Chinese character crawling. So how does this work? Tell me the process.
I was showing him a cluster in the constellation Aquarius that's very, very faint and very distant. It almost looks like a smudge. It was like you could barely make it out, except in a very, very dark, with no light pollution in the sky. And it's categorized. It's known as cluster M72. And one of the later astronomers who saw it called it an insignificant object. He didn't know what it was. All he knew was that it was just a faint smudge in Aquarius. So he called it an insignificant object. What he didn't realize was that it was because the telescopes weren't powerful enough to really see what it was. It turned out that it's a very, very distant, what's called a globular cluster. It's just a concentration of ancient stars, 60,000 light years from Earth. And there's over 500,000. There's an entire section of our own galaxy where there's 500,000 stars bunched up together in this ball of stars. And but from where we see it at Earth, it's very easy to ignore. Most people in their lifetime will never even notice it, even though it's out pretty much every night in the fall.
So
got together. He looked at that.
He actually looked at that with you with a telescope. I see. All right.
And I explained it, and Ling would translate what we were looking at as best she could. And he was dumbfounded because you look at.
I just want to know the mechanics. So you come and back and paint with what, acrylic or oil? Sketching
on black paper with white chalk and some pastels. And I use a red lamp because when you use white light, it dilates. Well, it doesn't dilate. It actually makes you. It shrinks the pupils of your eyes, so you get less.
So sketch first.
So the sketch first. And then I would bring the sketch to him and say, I'm thinking we should make a painting. What does this look like to you? And we couldn't figure out what it was initially. This is M72, the very first painting.
Which itself is a star field of stars. Is not that new. What's new is the massiveness, is a concentration of stars.
That it was always regarded as something that most people would look at it and think it wasn't any big deal. And it wasn't until much later with better telescopes we realized that what looked like a faint fuzzy cloud that was just like a little puff in the sky turned out to be this massive star field that we just needed more powerful telescopes to see. So when I told him what it was, he was like, "This is." It made him ask, and this is what happened throughout our entire adventure. Was that we look in the night sky, we try to get answers about who we are and why are we here, and when we were done, we had more questions than answers.
Right, right.
And that's why I love that poem so much. Who am I?
Yeah. And I love this poem. It says, who am I? Especially it says, when I'm living, who am I? When I'm dead, who am I? So do you have an answer? I'd like to know your answer at this moment. Who are we when we are alive? And who are we when we are gone?
That's a question that we all have to ask ourselves.
Can you try to give me an answer today?
I'll try. I try to be the best person I can for around the people that I love. And I like to share my experience for the people that I meet.
You know, the best thing or the most difficult thing is when you are nice to strangers.
Kind to strangers.
Or kind to strangers. That's altruism.
Yes.
That is what I'm trying to write about as part of the Cheng legacy. That's why I write novels. I'm trying to bring in what I do because I want you to understand I'm mentally, intellectually, and spiritually with you. And I also want you to be interested in what I do.
Absolutely. It's clear from the Phoenix that that resonated with you.
Yes.
When you went to see that, it was very. It definitely had a strong impact on you because, well, I learned that the Phoenix is very meaningful, not just in Chinese culture, but in your life and your interpretation of the world we live in. And that's the entire mission of our project was to invite people to look up into the night sky and to be inspired.
So let's come back to Huang Xiang's poem. I'm always interacting with you. Who am I? What are we when we are alive? Answer.
What are we when we're alive?
Yeah.
We're neighbors. We're family. We coexist on this very tiny planet. We have to do the best we can.
What are we when we are gone?
What are we when we are gone? When we're gone, I believe what I do in my life is who I am when I'm gone. What I teach my students, how I treat my family and my loved ones, what I leave behind. Because we don't bring any of this with us when we die. We only leave what we did and what we were behind. And I believe it's our moral obligation to be the best and purest people that we can be. That's why I try when I don't just make art to pay the bills. I make art because it's important to me. And I teach art because I think it's an important thing for people to learn because it gives people an opportunity to have a new visual language to express their place in the world and their place in the cosmos. I think it's a pretty short, it's a pretty grim existence. You wake up and you just, working and paying bills and sleeping until it's all over.
And that I'm afraid is probably the traumatic existence. I think it's traumatic because it just does not go beyond the daily mundane. So people are become too callous, right?
I agree.
And people get sick out of all these traumas. So I want to help people to be healed, to arise, go beyond all these daily mundanes, which cause conflicts, cause sickness.
And unhappiness.
If they understand, yeah.
Non-fulfillment.
Exactly. If they understand a little bit more about life after death, or life beyond our human physical limit, perhaps above our head, maybe they can live a better life. That is really the single reason why we as an artist create art, right? It is to ask why and what and how, and then eventually share with people.
I believe that I think that as an artist, it's at its essence, we try to exalt, we try to raise the essence of the human soul and spirit and share that. When you listen to a piece by, say, Mozart or Beethoven, or you read a quote from a great poet or an author, they're alive at that moment. It's not just somebody playing it, but you could, you know, when I listen to a piece like Mozart's Requiem, I'm not hearing just an echo of him. I feel him. It's like when I look at a work. That's why I love going to the museum so much. When I go to the museum and I look at a Vermeer or a Van Gogh, or one of my other favorite artists, I'm having a dialogue. Even though they've been dead for a long time, I'm still connected to them. They are still speaking to us.
So if you ask me what we are when we are alive, and what are we when we are gone, I would say we are spirit even when we are alive, because we're too much body, we're too much flesh. All these sensations of senses, all these pleasure-seeking events, but we are actually spirit. When we share our spirit with our neighbors, with our friends, or with our children, and they can be affected, in turn, they would pass on the spirit to other people. So we are spirit. We're spirit that's benevolent and that's good. However, there's evil spirits.
No argument from me. Our mission is to be, in my opinion, and I believe what God's mission is for all of us, is a struggle is to keep our souls pure and to be good to each other.
Yes, however,
the universe is tough enough.
However, the world is full of evil spirits. That is my downfall of not understanding the evil of evil spirits. And we need to understand what is evil spirit and where do they come from? How do we conquer them, or how do we reform that if it's possible? That is the core message of what I'm trying to do. We cannot just always talk about good spirit when we are avoiding the possible catastrophe caused by evil spirit. Do you believe in evil spirit, meaning their existence?
I don't believe I know it.
Where do they come from, the evil spirit?
They are a direct conflict of good spirits, probably from the same place. There's some people that refuse to acknowledge that. But honestly, that's out of my realm of expertise.
But if you are saying we are all made of star stuff, why some stuff is good while the other stuff is bad?
It's not just the material.
Yeah.
Soul, isn't it?
The soul.
The matter, the freedom of choice that we're given to. It's to be a good person or to be a bad person.
So the soul.
Different rabbit hole here.
Yeah. So the soul is not as material. It's not.
Completely not material. It's not connected. The soul is simply. The soul is the energy that makes us who we are. The body is just it's a vessel for the body. So
energy is vibration. So
well, that's again, that's something that we can. There are different interpretations.
That is the very essence we need to understand. That is what artists are all seeking to know, right? At least me and you probably. I think Huang Xiang wrote extensively about spirits, about life and death, about the impossible, unexplainable phenomenon of the cosmos. That's what I understand from this painting. So one more thing about the first one is who am I? Do you know what are these big characters? Did he tell you and explain what are they? Who am I? These big Chinese or strokes? What did he say?
He would explain afterwards. That was essentially the title, the essence. One of the challenges of doing a collaboration is to find balance, because that was the very first painting we did together. So as you see, when you see them all at once at the same time, you lose the track of the fact that it was a 2-year evolution of the project. The style changed, our subject matter changed, even the paintings became a different balance.
And how long did it take you to do the first painting? And did he do this in front of you?
He didn't do the calligraphy in front of me for all of them. but he would show me what he planned on doing.
You render the painting and send it to his house?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Come to my place. Actually, we would discuss the subject matter and what I was going to do, and I would leave him space for him to put his poetry and for him to work around it. And I would tell him what areas I would feel he can prioritize the poetry and not overlap into some of the painting, and to keep a balanced piece. And then it was a struggle the first couple of pieces. And then we found a really good equal footing.
Like, let's talk about progression. We talk about the first painting. Is it our second, third, and how?
The first painting was Who Am I?
Yeah.
One of the later paintings, and one of my favorite paintings, is the owl. I thought was a beautiful synergy between us. I painted the owl, but I only painted the spines of the feathers. And he used each feather to be a line in the poetry that he wrote about the owl. And that nebula is seen every night under the ladle of the Big Dipper at night. So it's something you could see with a telescope, and then we added the wings to it. But each wing was a line in his Ode to a Cosmic Sprite. And I just found the balance. It's very dynamic, and it's just and colorful. And
so when you send him the painting and you actually give him the freedom to compose whatever he feels, you actually don't know what he's doing until later.
I didn't know what he was going to, what he would give me a hint of where he was going to be with the poem. He would give me a trend, and I would get a rough.
But how can he do that? And he is very impromptuous, and by the time he tell you, he already changed his mind.
And that's happened a few times.
Right.
Pretty locked in with that, and we wanted to, I wanted to give him the freedom to be himself.
Right.
None of this would work if I was not me and he was not him. But at the same time, we both had to learn to work with each other. It's because, again, a collaboration, when you have two different minds working together, it could very easily be a failure.
Right. They say, oh boy, you just ruined my design. It's possible, is that?
It happens a lot. And and there are some of the paintings, there was a lot of back and forth. And then
it happens a lot with you too? You and Huang Xiang?
I mean, as far as the format goes and the subject, but we ended up with this really nice balance of my painting and his calligraphy. And that was what the vision was from the get-go.
So he has his autonomy of writing his poem, and it was only interpreted for you after it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And you were amazed or upset sometimes?
In awe.
Awe.
I was in awe. I just could not believe, and it just got better and better as the project went on. Because again, this went for nearly 2 years. The last piece we did, called The Question Mark, actually went on 10 years.
Let's talk about that. I actually did 2 big question marks with my own illustration. So I also think this big question mark is the visual to entertain.
I looked at your website, your project with the Phoenix, and I just found it. I found it fascinating that we have that resonance, and we share that. The Phoenix is fascinating for me because it's in a number of cultures. It's not just in the West, but in Central America, Africa, and China. And it's like, how does a mythical being exist in all of these other cultures?
Exactly. Yeah. Dragon and Phoenix are a auspicious duo, supposedly, in ancient Chinese mythology. However, China as a dragon, as many believe that, become very threatening lately. So I think I would like to manage the geopolitical feng shui. So that's why I created the symbol of Phoenix, which is a messenger of peace that is so lacking these days around the world. So that's why I'm doing a Phoenix remaking mythology. I'm revamping an Asian mythology from the classic of mountains and seas.
We did something similar with our Phoenix Nebula, because in Greek culture, in ancient Greek culture, the Phoenix rises from the ashes out of the flames. In this one with us, The nebula is actually an incubator. It's a nursery for new stars. When you're looking at the phoenix that we
Yes.
drew or
Yes.
painted, you're watching the birth of brand new stars. It's like the phoenix is laying eggs and hatching these brand new worlds and these. In my spiritual upbringing, in our theology, you hear it a lot, especially in the Catholic doctrine, that God is light.
Yeah.
In the earliest stages of the monastery, you were given the curriculum when it was first laid out. It was called the 7 liberal arts.
Mm.
Of the 7, one of the subjects that was required in the monastery was astronomy,
Mm.
to explore the world and what and the wonders of that world. And so it's something that, for some reason, I find it heartbreaking and confusing in this day and age. And maybe I don't know if it's a Western phenomenon or it's a modern phenomenon. This absolute, this inability for religion and science to reconcile, that they have to be separate. You can't be a scientist and be religious. You can't be religious and be, and I don't understand.
That's tragic.
It is. And I do believe this particular project, and what made, especially in art, the Renaissance so important, was that it was a convergence of art, science, theology, math, religion, all came together. And what happened when it all came together? So the most beautiful creations in the world came from
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And ever since then, it's just been a struggle, and I'm not entirely sure. And if anything, that's what I was hoping this mission would be, is that we can show that even though we're on 2 different sides of the world, and he's a couple of generations older than me, and we speak completely different languages, that we can come together on this one project. And I think we did pretty well, all in all.
Yes, yes.
That we can come up with a cohesive and unified project of meaningful art.
A naked bird and naked sun dance wildly with no one to observe their mysterious lovemaking. Wow, that's amazing.
That's actually an emission nebula. It's basically one big. How would I put it? It's a star factory. That's what we're looking at. We're watching stars being born. At the tail end of the phoenix, there's all those little bits of stars you see out. They're all these little white flakes
Yes.
that look like snow. Those are
Right.
all baby stars that are being born. She's creating all of this life. I'm just looking forward to hear about, I looked at your website and your project with the phoenix, and I just found it, I found it fascinating that we have that resonance, and we share that. The phoenix is fascinating for me because it's in a number of cultures. It's not just in the West, but in Central America, Africa, and China. And it's like, how is a mythical being exists in all of these other cultures? And
Exactly. Yeah.
dragons.
Dragon and phoenix are a auspicious duo, supposedly, in ancient Chinese mythology. However, China as a dragon, as many believe that, become very threatening lately. So I think I would like to manage the geopolitical feng shui. So that's why I created the symbol of phoenix, which is a messenger of peace that is so lacking these days around the world. So that's why I'm doing a phoenix remaking mythology. I'm revamping an Asian mythology from the classic of mountains and seas.
We did something similar with our Phoenix Nebula, because in Greek culture, in ancient Greek culture, the phoenix rises from the ashes.
This is a very painting that's iconic. That's why I use this one to make a poster for the documentary, Cosmic Light Beings. So we're all light beings trying to bring light into the world to diffuse the darkness. That's our mission as artists. Final question for E.T., the alien, because I saw your animation about alien. You believe in that?
I believe that there is just the law of averages. There's something or someone else out there. There's just too many worlds like ours that can host life. Too many worlds out there. So many beyond count. Even when it's maybe not in our solar system, but I do think that there's a really good chance that maybe even within our own galaxy, that we have beings, maybe humanoid, maybe not. We live in such a beautiful, marvelous, intense universe and world. And for what little time we have on this earth, I'm just feel very privileged that we have the capacity to look in the night sky. I think that I am a conduit for a higher power, that my talent was given to me by God to share and to do good by, and to share my life's experience and to teach it, to teach people how to do it as well.
I'm so thrilled we had the opportunity to study the working process of Randall DiGiuseppe and Huang Xiang. Through that, we had the opportunity to study the universe above us, around us. But my focus, if we could look inwardly in this chaotic world, we would find roadmap for the future. Please join me if you want to understand more about China and Chinese culture, and more about the interaction between the East and the West, either through art or through technology or through beliefs systems or through mythology. My book, my novel, PHOENIXA Trilogy, will be launched. The first edition, PHOENIXA The Nest, will be launched October 27th. So join me in celebrating the birth of a work supposed to be staying for centuries. So I would love to hear your feedback about PHOENIXA The Nest, which is available on Amazon, in Barnes & Noble, and libraries around the world. Please join me in discussing the meaning of being alive.